Welcome back to my channel. If you've been here before, if this is your first time, welcome. I am on my journey through reading the Bible for the first time. Today I'm going to be starting the second book of Exodus. Yesterday I put out a final thoughts, final recap discussion about the chapter of the book of Genesis. I encourage that you go check that out. I guarantee there are talking points in there that you have never heard before, insights that you have never considered before. So I pray and hope that you check that out. But just to give a quick recap of everything that was Genesis, of course, we have creation, Adam and Eve, their betrayal, their deceit, their fall, Cain, Abel, Cain kills Abel, Adam has Seth, Seth's bloodline is carried to Noah, Noah goes through the flood. Noah's has three sons: Ham, Shem, Japheth. Ham is disgraced, so Shem's bloodline carries on to Abram. Abram and his wife Sarai cannot conceive, so he tries to have does have a baby with their slave Hagar. The child's name is Ishmael. Eventually, he's able to conceive with his wife under the name of Abraham, and her name is Sarah now. They have their son Isaac. Hagar and Ishmael are sent away. Isaac's bloodline goes down to Esau and Jacob. Jacob steals Esau's birthright and his blessings through a scheme with his mother. Then it's Jacob's bloodline that is carried to, of course, his 12 sons. Joseph being the most important. Joseph is sold by his brothers after a dream saying that he would be the head of the family, essentially. That puts him in the circumstances where eventually he becomes the right-hand man of the Pharaoh. His family comes to Egypt during the famine that's across the land. And eventually Joseph dies. So that's where we're at right now. A lot of the Israelites, quote unquote, they came to Joseph in Egypt, and then they started to multiply. Joseph died. So that is where we are, and that's a perfect segue into the very first chapter. It's called Israelites Oppressed. So what I would like to do today is I would like to read the first couple books of Exodus. Let's get right into this. Exodus. I'm excited. There it is. Exodus. The Israelites oppressed. These are the names of the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his family: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. So I already established that Joseph was already there. His brothers, his family came to him where he was at. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly, increased in numbers, and became so numerous that the land was filled with them. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. Look, he said to his people, the Israelites have come far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more powerful or numerous. And if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country. So, right there, we have that theme of the Israelites being an abundant people again. However, let's see what they have to say. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. Actually, I want to take a moment to pause there. I have this conversation essentially daily where I believe that humanity does its best and is its most, it thrives under the worst conditions. So we're at our best when we're pushed to a corner. I always use this euphemism that pressure creates diamonds. So that looks like what had happened here, essentially. Where we go? It says they made their lives bitter with harsh labor and brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields. In their harsh labor, the Egyptians worked them ruthlessly. Kind of sounds like, honestly, how employers, quote unquote, handle all the illegal immigrants who come into our country. They put them on farms, they have them in construction, and they're barely paying them anything. But you have one side of the news saying, look at all this cheap slave labor we have, and the other side saying, well, we need to get them out of our country. There's really no middle ground there. So, and I don't know that there needs to be honest. I don't know that there needs to be. We need to have a hard stance on our immigration policy, but I'm going to continue. It says, the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, when you are helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on the delivery stool, if you see that the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it is a girl, let her live. I wonder why that is. Maybe so that their men don't grow into warriors, possibly. The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live? The midwives answered Pharaoh, Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive. So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. Oh my gosh. So this guy is dead set on decreasing the number of Israelites in his area, in his domain. All right. That finishes chapter 1. Let's go ahead and read chapter 2. It says, now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Papyrus? That might be it. Papyrus basket for him, and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe. Her attendants were walking along the river bank. She saw a basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying and she felt sorry for him. This is one of the Hebrew babies, she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? Yes, go, she answered. The girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you. So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. I didn't realize that's what Moses meant, that I drew him out of the water. So next it says, this is the next section, still same chapter, next section. It says, Moses flees to Midian. Or it might be Midian, I could be pronouncing that wrong. So one day after Moses had grown up, so we go straight into adulthood, which actually happens a lot. I wanted to take a moment to talk about that because I have seen people, or at least heard people say, well, why don't we know a lot about the childhood of these Bible heroes? Well, it's the same reason we don't know a lot about, say, Thomas Jefferson's childhood. When you're writing a biography about somebody, I was going to say an autobiography. That's the one you write by yourself. But if you're writing a biography about somebody, the years where they're not very active, where their lives are essentially common life, you're not writing about those lives, right? You're not writing about that time, that period. So I just wanted to emphasize that because I have heard that a lot. Why don't we know a lot about Jesus' childhood? Why don't we know about Moses' childhood? Well, because those points in their lives don't really matter that much. What do children do, honestly? So let's carry on. It says, one day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and that way, seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and he saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" The man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Whoa, how did he know? He literally said that he looked to the left, to the right, nobody was around. How did he know that? Then Moses was afraid and thought, "What I did must have become known." When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered the flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked them, I've seen that name before. I've definitely seen that name before. I want to kind of circle back. I've 100% seen that name, Reuel, but that guy's for sure gotta be dead, right? I'm not gonna worry about that right now. I'm not gonna. But I have seen that name before, but he's most certainly dead. This is a different Reuel. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong. All right. So where was I? Okay. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." "And where is he?" Reuel asked his daughters. "Why did you leave him? Invite him and have to have something to eat." Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning and remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. So I'm going to stop right there for today. That puts us at 2 chapters of Exodus. Feeling pretty good. I'll come back tomorrow. We're going to read chapters 3 and 4. And the next chapter is called The Burning Bush, which I do know about. But let's go ahead, pause this for today. I hope you all have a blessed 4th of July weekend. I took the day off so I can get that 4-day weekend, you know what I'm saying? So I hope that you all have a blessed weekend. I'll be back tomorrow with some more. God bless.